filmmakers, there are directors, there are auteurs, and then there's SSR. You need no introduction. You came all the way from India to little old Santa Monica, and look at this, it's amazing. Thank you for being here again. Thank you for coming back.
The pleasure is all mine. You're saying it's a little place in Santa Monica, but the love the audience are showing is nothing about that love is little.
So the last time we saw you was about 6 weeks ago. You conquered Hollywood at the IMAX, and since then you went to Japan. Well, you went back to India, and then you went to Japan and RRR opened in Japan. What was that experience like?
Absolutely amazing. How do I say it? The way the Japanese people show their love is amazing. Everything comes with a piece of art. The social media is flooding with the fan art, and I mean, commercially it is the biggest Indian film there. Like my previous film, Bahubali 2, collected about 288 million yen in about 6 months, and RRR will be doing that in 5 weeks.
So first you conquered India, then you conquered America, and now you're conquering Japan.
Please don't say conquer.
I am English. I apologize. Thank you. But I mean, speaking of that, I mean, this is, it's not just a cultural phenomenon, right? I mean, this film is literally resonating with audiences on a global scale in a way that I think it's fair to say no Indian film has done before. How does that feel?
I was just telling a friend, imagine yourself in my shoes, okay? I am from a country which speaks hundreds of languages, and we make languages in each state in my country has a film industry on its own. Usually films don't travel beyond that states itself. So traveling to other parts of my country itself is a big thing. Now, my film traveling thousands of miles west, halfway across the globe, and resonating with audiences in America, then traveling thousands of miles east and resonating with audiences in Japan, and traveling to different countries across the world over the Netflix and resonating with people all over. How does it feel? I mean, I can't find words for how I feel.
I love that you talk about language, because one of the many things that's fascinating about this film, and I think your work in general, is how the language and the dialect, while it's so important within the film, it almost doesn't matter as well. There is a sense of watching this film, so much of it, and I found myself doing this many times. I'm watching the film, and a lot of times I'm not even reading the subtitles, but I'm following. And there's such a human element that's so centric, I think, to your filmmaking at its core. And that's a language, I think, that resonates above and beyond any kind of cultural barrier or geography. Is that something that you've tried to implicitly put in your films, would you say?
Yeah, consciously I try to put in as much, as less dialogue as possible. Try to tell everything through performances, through setting up the scene, through the action sequence. I try to tell everything through that. For example, the main lead, Ramajouli, who appears, the first line he utters is like after on the fourth scene. He doesn't utter a single word in 3 of the scenes. including the 15-minute big action set piece. He doesn't speak at all. So I like to, I like the, I mean, film is a visual medium, right? If you can tell your stories through visuals, that has the biggest impact on the audience rather than the dialogues. At least that's what I feel.
And so thinking about the writing process and the creative process you take at the very beginning. So you write these films with your father, right? Yeah, and he is 80 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does that work? Does he ever? I know what my dad would do if I tried to write a film. Does he ever tell you to pull back? Does he ever remind you that you're his son and he tries to like? How does that dynamic work?
My father?
Yeah.
Telling me to slow down? I mean, he doesn't believe in holidays. He doesn't take his Sundays off. He doesn't take any national holidays off. He gets up 4 o'clock in the morning and he starts his exercise routine, and he starts thinking while he is doing his exercise routines. He works from that point to the time he sleeps at 9 in the night. 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days, he does that. Last time when I came here, we had a fantastic experience at TCL IMAX. I went back home with full of exuberance to tell my dad all the experiences that I had. The moment he saw me, he said, "Is your holiday over? Are you coming back to
work?" And the two of you, so it's a collaborative process, but where does the original inspiration from? I was listening to this, there's an interview I was listening to last week, Quentin Tarantino was talking about his creative process and how he finds inspiration. He gets in the pool and he lies in the pool on like a floaty, and he'll just sit in the pool and he gets the strangest thing ever. But for you and your inspiration, does that come from a back and forth with your father, and in particular with this film? So our main protagonists, they're rooted in real people, and obviously they never met. But at what point did you figure these are people that I needed to make a film about, and then how did that work with your father in the writing process?
I mean, inspiration can come from many places. I would say more than the inspiration, the thought process started with a few things, not just one thing. What is the film Inglourious Bastards? So when I was seeing the film and suddenly Hitler was shot in the theater, and I thought, it blew my mind off. Right? We all knew that was not the case. That's not how Hitler died. All of us knew that. But the filmmaker, Tarantino, great guy, he went in and did that because he was telling a fictional story. He wanted to create an impact on the audience. He went in and did that. I thought that was amazing, and it opened my eyes. It literally shook my system. The kind of barriers that we are having for our own minds. We can feel free. We can tell the story the way you want to. We want to, because we are essentially making a fictional film, fictional stories. It's not real. So that really opened my eyes. One thing. Second thing, Motorcycle Diaries. It's a beautiful film. The travelogue of one very normal guy whose name is a very common name, Shay. And at the end of the film, the director suddenly reveals it's Che Guevara. No, it's like, oh my God, this is great. This will work for many freedom fighters across the world. So these two things started growing on me. Then I always had the idea of a multi-starrer. I always liked the idea of multi-starrer. Not just stars bringing two stars together, but bringing two heroes together. Even from my childhood, I used to do that. I would take characters from different stories that I have read, and in my mind, I would write a story. not a story, a scene. I would bring them together and just indulge in two heroes from different places coming together and interacting with each other.
And the two heroes that you've got in this, obviously NTR and Rancharan, incredible. Had you always envisioned that they would be the leads in this?
The moment I thought multi-starrer would be good for my next film, the names that came to my mind were NTR and Charan. One thing, I worked with them before. Second thing is I have a great relationship with both of them. And third thing, that they are friends in real life. Apart from their professional, traditional family rivalry, they are good friends. And it makes my job more challenging to bring these two guys together. So yeah, I always had these guys in my mind.
And when they came aboard, and just for a little context, like these are like mega stars back in India. And am I right in saying that? So this type of multi-star, as you say, like it just doesn't happen in Indian cinema. You never get two mega stars.
No.
Yeah. So that in itself was a huge feat. When they came on board, was it really clearly defined who was going to play which character? Was there any jostling between them as to who would play Bhima?
When I had them on board, I didn't have the story.
Wow.
So I wanted to do a multi-starrer. I had the idea of doing a fun romantic comedy kind of.
That's not this.
So I had that idea in my mind, and I called Tarak. Tarak, can you come over to my place? He said, okay. Then I called Charan and said, Charan, can you come over to my place? He said, okay. So first Tarak came, and then we were just chit-chatting, and then Charan came. Charan saw Tarak and said, hi bro, hi bro. And they didn't understand why both of them were there at the same place without telling. So I took them aside and said, see, I wanted to reveal this to both of you at the same time. I didn't want, if I tell Tarak once and I don't want him to leak the information to Charan, like vice versa. So I told, I have an idea, I want to work on a multi-starrer. Are you up for it? Without knowing the story. They said, absolutely. Both of them said, absolutely yes.
When was that exactly? Like what year? And then from there.
Don't ask me this.
But once they said yes, were you like, oh shit, now I have to write a movie for these guys?
I mean, I had that idea of a nice romantic comedy between them. So I was working on that line, and I told my wife, this is a line that I'm thinking about for both of them. And she was cooking, and she said, who will watch a romantic comedy from you? I was so depressed. My wife doesn't believe that I can make a romantic comedy. But yeah, then we seriously got into thinking, and all the other things happened. And I started reading about the history of Aero Theatre and Komram being. Again, I knew this history, but I read it again. Then I found the resemblances, beautiful coincidences. They were born around the same time.
Yeah.
They left their houses when they were almost in their early 20s or something. No one knows what happened to them for a period of 2-3 years. And they came back, they were changed men. Alluri Sitaram Raju came as a warrior saint. He was dressed as in saffron robes with beard and bow and arrows. And Bhim came back an educated man. We don't know why they changed like that. We don't know how Bhim got his education. But there is this 2-3 years, I thought this is a fantastic idea, fantastic scope for me to tell whatever I want to tell in this space.
And how was it working with them there? is there any ad-libbing, or is it very rigid and structured? Because I know that earlier in your career, the way that you would direct actors, you would literally tell them exactly what to do. But now you're dealing with these megastars. How much freedom do you give them? How much do you stand back and let them play?
So what we tried to do from my previous film, Bahubali, was we started a process called character development, where me as a director, for example, Tarak as an actor, and my father as a writer, we would sit across a table and answer literally hundreds of questions about the character of Bean. From his childhood, what was he? What are his likes? What are his dislikes? Why did he like a certain thing? Why did he dislike a certain thing? And how did that change when he's a young adult? How did that he change when he's an adult? And how was he by the time when he was dying? What are his philosophies? How did they change? Why did they change? We discussed in detail each and every detail about that particular character. It was a very tedious process, which took about 2 days of sitting and answering question, and then we would discuss, we would argue whether the character being would react to a certain situation in the way I imagined, or the writer imagined, or the actor imagined. It was a tedious process, but by the end of it, all three of us had a very clear understanding about what the character was. So, at any given situation, Tarak, for example, playing Bean, immediately knew what the character would do. How he would do is what he will bring to the screen as an actor. And I would just be there to guide him. So, to answer your question, by the time we finished our character development process, we were very rigid in what the character was, because it was very well defined. And from then onwards, I was not rigid on what he was giving to me. I let him be whatever he wanted to be. Same thing exactly with Charan. I made sure that they understood what the character was, what the emotion on that particular scene was, and I let them what they want to do.
The backstory that you build out, and the meticulous nature in which you're building the backstory for those characters, that bleeds into everything you do, right? And thinking about the way that you're building these set pieces, like they're massive, right? I was reading that so the first big scene with Ron when he goes out into the crowds when we go. Now that took 20 days to shoot. That so can you talk about that? Because that's one of these gigantic set pieces, and there are countless others. Can you talk about that and how you construct that? Because it's massive, and you're involved, right? You're not standing back. You're behind the camera shooting every shot in this.
Yeah, I mean, the way we shoot, at least the way I shoot in India, is completely different from how it's shot here. The film RRR was shot for 320 days. And
that's 320 days.
Yeah.
My God.
And I pretty much shoot everything. I don't rely on second unit and third unit. Maybe 3 or 4 days in this whole 320 days in the second unit. So the way we shoot is like, we plan an episode, prepare for that episode, we shoot that episode, take a break, edit it, send it off to VFX, then prepare for the next episode.
You're editing while you're shooting?
Yes, yeah.
And that's not finished edit, that's just like kind of sculpting, get it into shape, and
yes.
then...
Yes, I mean, by the end of it, we will have like almost 90% correct, the edit is 90% correct. We send it off to VFX. There might be some wasted shots because of this process, but we will be gaining time on fine-tuning the shots. So that's at least how I do it. And for this sequence, believe it or not, not one single person got hurt in that. It was so well rehearsed. I should really thank my choreographer Solomon for that sequence. I told him, he composed and showed it to me, which was very bad. I just threw it away. And I hired the best of the choreographers in Hollywood to do the stunt twist for me. They took a month time and it was brought. When I saw it, it was bad. I didn't like it. So I thought,
Take that, Hollywood.
if my choreographer couldn't do it, but if the biggest choreographers in Hollywood couldn't do it, probably something is wrong with my thinking. I actually thought of dumping that sequence and then rethinking about something. But during all this process, which took about 1.5 to 2 months, my choreographer was still composing the sequence. He didn't let it go. So he was after the line producer asking him to give few extras, maybe 50, 60 extras, so that he can compose the sequence, and he finally did it, and he showed it to me. I was blown away. I was literally blown away, and what he showed me was what you have seen on the screen, a miniature version of it. He was relentlessly pursuing it to get what I want, and the way he planned was like, you see it is like everyone is falling on everyone, unchoreographed stuff kind of thing, but every move is choreographed.
Wow.
Every move is choreographed. No matter.
The guy that gets his ear twisted in the microphone.
Yes.
I love that guy. And then so you talk about shooting episodically, but you also, the way that the script works and the way you construct, I mean the whole film, you take the audience, like you're taking us on these waves, right? And so every 10 to 15 minutes or so, there's a climax, and that's the thing that I think there's a lot of films that last 3 hours and they feel like they're 6 hours. There's no let up in this film, but it never feels over the top and it never sags, because you're playing this push and pull with the audience. How do you build that?
I mean, I like that kind of stuff. We get all the basics right. There should be an emotional drive for the character to do those kind of stuff. The story should support it. The characterization should support it. The sequence should have the relevance of having an action sequences. All those bases are covered. Those bases have to be covered for a beautiful action sequence to be created. Then I like to take that creative tension to the maximum before setting off an explosion. That's how I like to do it. Like, for example, the beam and the animal sequence. There are hundreds of ways the animals can be let into the party. Right? It can happen, but I like to.
One way.
But I like superheroism. I like stuff where people go wow, the way the people, the audience are shouting. The beauty is like people who already has seen it shout in a certain way, people who hasn't seen it shout in a certain way, or express in a certain way. But that's what I want.
Watching the people here, the people who hadn't seen it, the way that they shouted it was just like, what the? It was awesome. And so that sequence in particular, so that comes right before, the interval, the intermission. And that's very deliberate, right? Because you're building up to that to set up the kind of like the back half of the film. Let's talk about that, and then how you kind of work from that into the second half.
I'm taking this opportunity. I want to make an appeal to all the cinemas across America to give an interval for all of us. There are so many advantages out of it. The audience can go to a washroom and come. Second thing is like during the process in India we see that a lot. People discuss the film.
Yeah.
They discuss the first half of the film. They will discuss what's the second half going to be. They have their own theories and they are invested in the film, which is very good for a creator. And thirdly, your popcorn sales will go up. There is so many good things to happen. For us Indians, interval is a very integral part of filmmaking. Just like you have the 3-act structure, first act, second act, third act, it is woven into the film. You might not notice it clearly, but it is woven into the film. The same way interval comes as a very clear indication mark for us. We usually make the audience like take it, wow, what just happened kind of moment. It might be a shock, it can be an emotional moment, anything, but yeah, that's how we try to write our stories.
And you talk about that being integral to Indian cinema. Dancing and singing, that's also integral. There's a lot of incredible songs in this film. And then there's not so much. Let's talk about that, my friend. How? I mean, it's unbelievable, and every level. The song, the lyrics, the performances, and just the overarching direction and the joy that brings is something that we just don't see from a Western standpoint. You're just not seeing cinema anymore. So how did you put that thing together? And you shot this. This was, am I right? This was the last.
Almost last.
And you shot in Ukraine.
Ukraine, here, yes.
Yeah.
In the presidential palace.
Okay. The how did you build this? And at what point? Because you must have known. At what point did you know that you had lightning in a bottle and this was really special?
The moment I had Tarak and Sharon say yes for the film, I knew I had to have a dance sequence. That's what the audience are going to expect, and that's what they want, and I had to integrate it. But the funny thing about the story is, the story writing is, the story doesn't care what the audience want. The story has its own dictation. It dictates how it needs to run, and the audience doesn't care for the story. The audience care for what they are getting out of the screen. So as a director, I know the audiences want a beautiful dance number, but I have to integrate that into the film. And to make the things worse, I am talking about freedom fighters, Alusi Ramajouli, Kumram, and them doing a massy dance number is not an easy thing to fit into the story. Right? So in my mind, what I thought was, okay, they're not dancing. It is not a dance sequence. It is a fight.
Yeah.
That's a competitive fight. So in my mind, that was it. And once I had that answer, it was easy to get into it. But I mean, it's great music. It is great orchestration. It is great dancing. It is coordination of so many people. Wonderful support from all the Ukrainian group. The dancers were fantastic. They were not just dancing; they were acting. They were acting in many shots. You can see that all the dancers had wonderful expressions, body languages, everything. But if I have to give the credit to one person, I must say it is the choreographer Prem Rakshit.
You worked everyone to their bone, right? I mean, you have
Yes.
the amount of steps.
You wouldn't believe. He composed more than 100 steps for that 3 signature moves for Nadu Nadu.
Oh my God.
And he had 4 or 5 sets of assistants who were dancing, composing, dancing, and after 15-20 steps, their legs were giving away. They were taken away, and fresh set of assistants were and believe me, a couple of the assistants were taken to the hospital because their knees were buckling.
So if you're ever invited to dance in an SSR movie, the answer is no. It's amazing.
But the interesting thing is the steps are not complicated. A little bit of practice, anyone could do it. Anyone can do it. That's the reason why we see millions of videos or views for the video where everyone, mother and daughter, two friends, father and son, brothers, everyone were dancing for that step because that's what we wanted. A little practice, everyone should be able to do it.
Yeah. But they go so high. I mean, you're right. It's a battle as fierce as anything else we see in the film. It's beautiful. Let's take some questions.
Very frank, I wouldn't take credit for that. For me, I am not addressing the issue of oppression in the film. Definitely not. For me, I am essentially telling a tale of friendship between two freedom fighters who existed in times of oppression. So, oppression comes as a part of that narrative. But in my mind, I am very clear that I am talking about friendship. That's exactly what I am talking about. All the other things that are surrounded are byproducts of this state. Because we are set in times of British Raj in India, which caused a lot of oppression, that comes as a part of it. But my intention is not to talk about it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. See, after every success of every film, we immediately look into terms of can we continue this story. There will be obviously some interesting ideas, but what we seriously look into it is like, is this idea really compelling to make another film? If it is not, financial benefits aside, we don't do that. We are very clear about it. Even with RRR, initially we had some ideas, they were good but not great. So we left it aside, then suddenly, a few weeks back, my father, myself and my cousin, the core story team we were discussing, and suddenly my cousin came up with a fantastic thought, an idea, which I thought was, oh great, this has to be made. But for a film to be made, there are many things that should come together. The most important thing is the script, that's the first and foremost, but full script has to be done. Then we will look into different aspects of when and how it can be made. But yes, at this point of time, I have a great idea, which I really think can come out as RRR 2.
You can share that. We're not saying that.
Right. Yeah, it's a secret, guys.
Okay, we got time for...
Trying to balance everything for every scene. If one guy punches, one punch, the other guy also punches once. If one has a 100-foot scene, the other one has a 100-foot scene. Many people think balancing is that is where we might fail miserably. That is not how a film should be made. My thought process was, how would people empathize with this character by the end of the film? Do we equally love them? Do we love them equally? Do we feel for them equally? At some point of time, one character can take a front seat, other character can take a second back seat. It might change in another part of the film, that doesn't matter. But at the end of the film, we should feel equally for them. So that is my idea of balance.
So, we have to wrap, unfortunately, I apologize. But that concept of balance and what you've accomplished and what you've achieved here, we haven't seen anything like this. the only reason why this film exists is because you made it. And I think I speak for everyone when I say that we are indebted to you for making this film. You haven't just broken a barrier, a Western barrier with Indian film, which in itself I think is career defining. But I would say that you've elevated the art of cinema. And you have set the bar now that every filmmaker has to try and get to. They're not going to.
That's a bit of an overstatement. There is a bar that everyone is liking the film. So the bar is set for myself. So if my next film, I have to cross that.
SSR. It's we've had a lot of people on this stage, and we've been doing this for 10 years. I don't think anyone has given us more joy, sheer joy in screenings than you. So thank you for what you've been doing. Thank you for being here.